Hey everyone, it's me, Matt. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing great. So I wanted to first off apologize for not putting out any videos, long form videos, over the last 2 weeks. I missed the last 2 weekends. It was Thanksgiving 2 weeks ago. I was back in California visiting family and friends. I had an amazing time. I was there for a week. And then when I came back last week, I was really struggling with time change. I was struggling with finding the motivation to get out into the yard and do some garden projects. I did, however, make it out to the garden center and I picked up some beautiful shrubs so we can get started on my kind of front garden transformation. I can't wait to get these plants in the ground and I can't wait to share them with you. So let me spin the camera around and I will show you our work area for today. All right, so here is our work area for today. You can see I've already got my plants placed. So if you've been following along for a while, you know that I've been talking about how I want to redo this space. I previously had some yellow bush daisies wrapped around the base of my giant bird of paradise plant here, and we ripped them out together in a garden cleanup video. So these are the plants here that I picked out last week at the garden center. I've got pitch apples in the back. They kind of look like succulents. They kind of remind me of a cross between like a sea grape and a succulent plant, but they've got these waxy leaves. I've got 3 of them, obviously, 1, 2, 3. And then I bought 4 Dwarf Tibouchinas, which are these purple flowering shrubs here in the front. I absolutely love their electric purple color. And I love that these plants bloom in the fall and winter. So it is December here in Florida and a lot of stuff is dormant, but there's a handful of plants that will actually flower in the fall and winter, and the Dwarf Tibouchina is one of them. So I'm so excited to get them planted in my yard because they will add some nice fall and winter interest. You can see these plants are all budded up. There's so many flowers to come. I'm so excited to get them in the ground and get them added to my garden. And then I've also got my White Salvias here. You can see there aren't really any flowers. No, they're all dead. The flowers are all dead, but these plants have started to push some new growth from their bases. So I want to get in here and I'm going to cut back the older dead top growth and then get them transplanted out of this garden bed, and I'm going to move them into this garden bed as well. So I've already got some white Gara plants. There's one right here, another one here, one there, and then one right here. So I'm gonna kind of intermix the White Salvias in with the white Garas, and I think in the spring when they start really putting on some size, I'll have a kind of a beautiful front area filled with white flowers from the White Salvias and the white Garas. And then we will have the kind of green backdrop of the pitch apple plants in the very back, and then the Dwarf Tibouchinas. They won't be purple in color, flowering with their purple flowers at the same time as the salvias and the Garas, but it'll be kind of a nice backdrop, I guess, of green color. So as far as the tools for this project, let me move my tripod here. So I've got my shovel, breaking out the big shovel. We're not using the hand shovel today. And then I've got some plant tone all-purpose fertilizer that I will use to fertilize these plants as I plant them in. So this should be a pretty easy project. We'll get these plants here in the ground first, and then we will use my hand pruners and we will prune off the dead top growth here on my salvias, and then we will dig these plants up and we will get them moved over into this bed. So it should be a quick project today. I'm so excited again to be finally tackling this garden bed. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so far so good. We've got the 3 pitch apples in the ground. That was way easier using my large shovel. Usually I garden with my hand shovel, but these holes would have been awful to dig by hand with that little shovel. Sorry, I'm out of breath. That was a little bit of a workout. You might have noticed that I did have to cut the middle one here out of its container. It had roots that were growing out through its drain hole, so rather than rip the roots off, I figured I'd cut around them. So these plants were a little bit root bound. You might have seen me rough up the roots a bit. It just will help undo, I guess, the memory of the roots circling around the pot. They'll grow out into the soil. Also, with the holes for these plants, I dug them so that they were about twice the diameter of the pot, but just as deep as the pot, if that makes sense. That way the soil's nice and loose around the plants when I backfilled the holes. And then I also, like I said, used the plant tone fertilizer to fertilize them with. Also, I'm so sorry if you can hear, I've got a neighbor who's mowing a lawn right now, so hopefully that's not too distracting. So yeah, anyways, we've got the pitch apples in. I think they look great. So now let's move on and get these 4 Dwarf Tibouchinas in the ground. Oh my gosh, I am all sweaty. This was more work than I thought it was gonna be. Man, I thought using that big shovel was gonna make this that much easier, but that is not the case. It is a crisp, cool December day here in Florida. It's in the, I guess, low 60s right now. I'm in the sweatshirt, but I'm thinking that the sweatshirt was probably a bad idea. But let me flip you around and I'll show you the Dwarf Tibouchinas all planted in the ground. So here's a little close-up of the Dwarf Tibouchinas all planted in the ground. So these Dwarf Tibouchinas will grow to be about 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. So hopefully they will touch someday and I'll have like a nice low hedge of these plants. And in the fall and winter, they'll be covered in these electric purple flowers. And then the pitch apples in the back here, their size varies. I mean, I've seen them grow as tall as 7 feet tall, maybe taller. People use them as screening plants or hedge plants, but my plan is to keep them about, I'll prune them to be about 4 feet tall, but eventually they will all connect as well. So this is just the start of my beautiful new bed here. Also really quick, I do have drip lines. You can see them, the brown lines here. So there's a line of drip that runs just in front of my Dwarf Tibouchinas, and then there's another one, you can see it right here, that runs near my pitch apples. There's actually a line back here somewhere. Where is it? This one right here. I don't know. I'll probably have to add some emitters and use some of the 1/4-inch drip to get to these pitch apples, but it's the winter. It's not like the blazing heat of summer, so these plants should be good in the short term until I can get in here and hook them up to more adequate drip, if you will. So moving right along, let's get in here now and we will trim off the dead growth on my White Salvias and we'll get these dug up and transplanted into this garden bed next. All right, so hopefully I'm in the frame here. But I've got my hand pruners here and some 70% isopropyl alcohol to sterilize my pruners with. Got Come on, there we go. I always recommend that you sterilize your pruners between plants. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I probably sound like a broken record to you, but for those of you who are new, I recommend sterilizing your pruners between plants. That way you don't transfer any disease from one plant to the other. So it's just a good practice. So yeah, let's get in here and we will trim off all of the older top growth. So basically, I'm gonna follow back to where the new growth begins, and that's where I'm gonna make my cuts. Simple as that. I'm also making my cuts at a diagonal. That way water will run off the cut instead of pooling on top of the cut. If you make it as a flat surface, then the water could just rest on top of the cut end and it'll lead to disease. You don't want that. So there we go. All that older top growth has been removed. You can see how fresh these plants look. They are ready to go for yet another season. We've got the last one over here. So let me grab my shovel. We'll dig these plants up and we'll get them transplanted. And then also really quick, I wanted to show you my purple magenta dendrobium orchid. Oh my God, tongue twister. My purple magenta dendrobium orchid is blooming. Look at these gorgeous blooms and look at all these buds. There's so many flowers to come. And then also you can see it's pushing another bloom spire. I'm so excited. This plant, I repotted it in, I guess it was April or May of this year, and it has thrown off so many bloom spikes this year. I'm so excited about it. I love this plant. It's probably what, 6-7 years old. It does great here on my front porch, but one more look at those gorgeous, gorgeous flowers. All right, so I've got my shovel here. So let's dig up my white salvias. This should be quick and easy. I'm just gonna go probably about 6 inches away from the root ball all the way around and then lift the whole root ball out of the ground with a shovel. And I've got all my white salvias placed. You can see I've got one right here intermixed with my white garas. So there's a white gara back here, and then there's another white gara here, a white salvia, a white gara, a white gara, and then my last white salvia. I kicked it over about a foot. So yeah, I think this is good placement. And when those garas and the salvias put on their height, we'll have a good 2.5 foot canopy of wispy white flowers. So if you're not familiar with the gara plants, I'll throw a photo up of one on the screen right now. They are beautiful. They add such amazing texture in the spring and summer garden. So let's get these plants planted in now. All right, so today's project is all done. Let me flip you all around and I will show you the completed flower bed. Ta-da! Here's the grand reveal. And again, I'm sorry about the lawnmower in the background, but I am so excited that I got this project done. Finally, I've got some order in this garden bed. We've got the pitch apples in the back, and then in the front, we've got the Dwarf Tibouchinas with their purple flowers. And then we'll have the kind of mass planting of the taller, wispy White Salvias and Garas. There's actually also a bunch of native Coreopsis flowers. They look like this. So there's some like here, there. I need to move these ones off the grass line, but there's a handful of them tucked in here, but they've got these beautiful yellow flowers. So those flowers will look really nice with all of the White Salvias and the white Garas in the spring and summertime. So yeah, I think I want to get in here next with some Supertunias and maybe plant some Supertunias here along the border, and then do something over here with Supertunias or Superbinas in this space. And then now that we've cleared out my front porch flower bed, we can get in here and do a mass planting of something beautiful. I'm thinking either beacon impatiens or begonias. I've still got to put some thought into that, but something beautiful here. So yeah, I am so excited with how this turned out. As far as watering, like I said, this area is hooked up to my drip irrigation. I'm going to monitor the pitch apples in the back and see if I need to add some drip emitters. And then the White Salvias that I transplanted, I'm going to probably water them every other day. I really want to make sure that their root balls stay moist while they root into their new homes, because they have been through some trauma. And then I also wanted to mention, these plants do really well in full sun. Actually, the Dwarf Tibouchinas will flower more profusely in full sun, but they can flower in part shade. This flower bed right now in the winter time is more of a part shade bed. You can see the afternoon sun is starting to creep in. The latter part of the day, this bed will get a lot of sunlight, but for the most part, in the mornings and early afternoon, it's in full shade. The sun is a lot lower in the sky this time of year, but once spring starts, and summer definitely starts, this whole area is a full sun flower bed. So these plants will really thrive in that beautiful full sun. But yeah, just wanted to address that because it looks like I planted everything in full shade. All right, so I've caught a little break in the lawn mowing action at my neighbor's house. It's quiet, so I can film this outro. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you live in Florida or you live in a zone 10 or 11 climate, you'll run out to the garden center and pick up some purple Dwarf Tibouchinas to add to your garden. I'm so excited to have those here. Like I said, they're adding a nice bright spot. I don't know, yeah, you can see them behind me. They look beautiful. They're probably the prettiest thing in my front yard garden at the moment. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons so you can hang out with me in future videos. And as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.